name is Lauren Hollows from NOI Education Services, and today I am lucky enough to be here with Sukh from, there's so many organizations, but Sukh has obviously been across Career Calling, which you have, congratulations, just won a award for, which is fantastic. As per usual, we have had AI write your introduction. So today we have a special guest who embodies the essence of seizing opportunities and giving their best. Sukh Sandhu, CEO of Career Calling International, started his journey at 14 and quickly rose through the ranks as a web designer and developer. With over 25 years experience in various leadership roles across the education, media, and communications industry, Sukh's entrepreneurial spirit and commitment to excellence shines through. Join us as we explore his remarkable journey on this episode. How did it do?
Thank you so much, Lauren. That was the best introduction.
So I was actually reading, you've done quite a wide range of stuff before you got into the education space. So talk to us a little bit about kind of how you got to, the education space.
I was always part of education space when I started, but in that I was doing a lot of other things as well. For example, website designing, website development, SEOs, business analysis. I was kept on learning whatever that comes my way. Artificial intelligence now. I'm doing so many even masters in it. So I always wanted to do whatever that was there, and I will continue that as well.
Absolutely. And you are, because you mentioned you are doing your master's, but you're also doing a doctorate at the moment as well, aren't you?
Yes,
You're doing your master's and your doctorate as well as running multiple businesses at the moment.
Yes, I am currently engaged in advanced studies towards a doctorate of business administration at the esteemed Golden Gate University in the San Francisco. And my scholastic concentration lies within the realm of vocational education and training.
Fantastic. And I'm interested, sorry, are there things that you have learned through these? Is this kind of more of a collation of the knowledge that you've gathered from like the last 20 years, or are there new things that you've managed to pull out of it?
I have already gone through and learned a lot of things from my professional and academic background, but here those research skills, they are quantitative, qualitative methods, researching and writing about how these tools can be used to evaluate how high managerial agents are responsible for the compliance and regulatory requirements for RT operations, why they need to be educated, why they must go through regular professional development training, rather than, yes, we have trainers, assessors, other staff members, but my understanding is that the most important thing for any training organization is their high managerial agents. So yeah, there are so many things those I got to know through my doctorate.
I think sometimes it does just help. I mean, you as I said, you have a lot of knowledge, but sometimes it's great just to be able to have that space to sit back and go, okay, here's all of the stuff that I've learned. Like, let me lay it all out, put it together, look at the patterns, look at what comes through, and just reflect and actually really build that. I mean, so many times we're so busy that we actually don't get to step back and genuinely reflect on it as well, which is nice.
Yeah, that's so true.
Now, so of course, tell me about, I mean, obviously, SAC, you've got CAQA, you've got Career Calling Institute. So talk to me about what is going on across all of the businesses at the moment.
So CAQA Career Calling, at its core, we specialize in writing micro-credentials and accredited training products. We are proud to state that we currently have over 50,000 training products, making us one of the largest in the world in this aspect. At CAQA, we are deeply engrossed with a multitude of projects, from RTO, higher education, IS audits, to various other specialized projects. You can say that our plate is always full and productive. Another exciting avenue for us is the VET sector magazine and newsletter. It has been incredibly well received. We are currently writing our 60th edition. And it's heartening to note the magazine's widespread leadership and the thousands of followers, the messages, emails, phone calls that we receive, the topics that we discuss. Then our branch, EDU Learning, acts as a professional development arm. It offers exclusive CEO training and tailors professional development solution catering to a wide range of training organizations globally. With CAQA labs, CAQA systems, we have ventured into creating simulated work environment, greatly benefiting our assessment and learner resources. Some of the field we ventured into include carpentry, automotive resources. Then we have PROBA. Through professional business analyst, we help organizations with business analysis. We have our team of data analysts and business analysts as well. Those help us making some really sound decisions way ahead any change happens in the industry. Then online media solutions, CAQA Digital assist us with capabilities providing excellent in-house ICT, web designing, and SEO services. While these services were primarily for our internal purposes, given their success, now we basically we are extending it to and exploring the possibility of making these available to other broader spectrum of businesses as well.
Nice.
So then we have CAQA recruitment and career calling jobs as well that underpin our recruitment wing. And through these, we aim to provide holistic solutions as a one-stop shop, making career calling and CAQA very much a one-stop shop provider for organizations.
Yeah. And I mean, so how many staff do you have supporting this? Because I mean, as you said, like 50,000 products and multiple wings and things like that. How many staff are you working with at the moment?
So it depends upon which organization we are talking about. So when it comes to CAQA resources, we have a number of contractors, so we take their assistance. Then with CAQA, we have around 10 full-time consultants with career calling jobs. So everyone has basically its own coordinator, leader, and number of people. Those help us with each of those operations. And there are a number of other things lined up, but we only venture into those once we feel confident that we have a leader or a manager that can take us to next step.
And I imagine that the recruitment arm is obviously very helpful for that, because it is definitely a challenge within our sector finding, really good qualified staff. There's an investment, regardless of the level that they come in at, there's always that initial investment period in anyone. So it can definitely be a challenge to build, to build empires the size of yours.
It is definitely, and I agree with you 100%, Lauren. Any organization or any team is as good as the people that work in it. And recruitment branch is very helpful for us to find those talent.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've covered obviously a little bit about all of the things that you guys do and a little bit about your studies now. Massive changes announced to our sector in the last couple of weeks. CRICOS is a big area of what you work with and the clients that you work with and things like that. I'm very interested to get your feedback on what your thoughts are on, the changes to concurrent enrolments, the potential changes that they've highlighted to some of the visas, the closing of the visa subcategory status and things like that. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are your thoughts on kind of where this is taking us and what the impact is going to be on the sector as a whole?
Well, I think in vet sector, one thing is the changes is the only thing certain. So now we have another round of changes and bad press as well, and so much going on at the moment. But the complexities of the CRICOS sector are quite obvious, to be very, everyone knows what is happening.
Yeah.
While the media basically, they play a crucial role in disseminating information, but I believe that they are very much politically motivated.
Yeah.
They basically fluctuates between the factual and like, politically motivated media news reports. Then, yes, there are a lot of issues those
Yeah.
CRICOS organizations have, but those are very much like, any other organization or any other department, any other service industry has a lot of other things as well. But the way
Yeah.
media, like, portray this, and then, like, they basically are nowhere for some time, and then again they surface.
There's a lot of I mean, look, there is a lot of gaslighting, I feel, when it comes to some of these issues. I mean, you've got a situation where there is a huge amount of really fantastic private providers. There are public and private providers that struggle to know how to do the right thing, or that, utilize funding correctly to maximize, completion outcomes and things like that. It feels very much like gaslighting when we hear fee-free TAFE is fantastic, that's all awesome, every private provider is a dodgy provider running a ghost college. It does rile, I mean, like, I think for most of us, it does rile us up to kind of go, no, look, if you're going to portray all of us this way, like, we'll go to war to say there are a lot of good providers out there,
There are so many good providers out there. I got the opportunity, as you, Lauren, work with number of TAFE, number of private providers as well. And I am not saying that who is better and who is worse, because that's not right for me to comment on it. But all I can say is that my experiences with private providers have been excellent. Yes, there are bad apples, but these bad apples are in every market.
Yeah.
And then I believe the biggest problems are with policies. The biggest problems are the way these regulatory frameworks are written. Like, if you are letting a course progress policy basically represent how you're going to audit organizations, not attendance policy, then this is a problem with regulatory policy here. Attendance, if the students are not coming here for study purpose, then they should not come here. This is how it is. If these training organizations, they do not want, their heart is not in providing quality education, they should not be operating in Australia. If, like, people, they want, if the objective shifts to employment, as during COVID time, or in number of other occasions in the past, then there are so many other visa categories, those we can specifically intend for this purpose, rather than using education for, like, filling employment and jobs and so much other things basically. Then all these inconsistencies with policy making, like, letting, for example, concurrent enrollment arrangements. This was a government policy.
Yeah.
That,
yeah.
like, yes, they can put the blame on anyone.
And then some agents and some schools and some students took advantage of the loophole, which
Yeah.
they're gonna do when you present them with a loophole.
Exactly, like, and this is loophole and loophole and loophole. And then, like, one day these people basically, I'm not against anyone here, I'm just giving one example. One day, like, people are driving cab, and the next day they open an RTO. Like, how does that work basically? And what kind of things they have in their mind or in their heart, what kind of education background they have to teach other students. This doesn't make any sense. There are critical issues. The way the regulatory framework is written, the way regulatory body is governing the industry, and these problems will be part of the industry if these regulatory frameworks have all these loopholes.
Do you think the change from, because one of the things that I was really happy to see was the change from this idea of genuine temporary entrant to genuine learner criteria that is supposedly coming out. To me, this is a really positive thing, because, if a learner says they're coming here to learn, and potentially they then want to take that qualification and run with it and build a life here for themselves in Australia, I'm really happy for them to actually be able to be more honest about that now moving forward. Like, that's something that we do want here in Australia. We want to build a, you know, a really diverse community with lots of different people. And if they're coming over here as a genuine learner, I think that that's something that we should allow for. Like, it shouldn't have to be that you just got to come here, learn, and then take that back. How do you feel about that particular, like that, you know, about that change coming in?
I think I welcome this change as well. As a migration agent, education agent, though I distance myself not in student recruitment side of the business, but I believe this is actually really good, positive change. But I feel if someone is coming here for education purpose, then education is the intention, and that's how it should be.
Yep.
I don't feel that if someone is saying that, oh, I want, yeah, and they want to use education as a pathway, I'm not okay with that.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, look, I think this is going to be, I guess, then to counter that, obviously with the removal of the concurrent legislation, with the concurrent enrolments, and I appreciate the government wanting to close that loophole, but I guess I question requiring students to be locked into their principal qualification. And if their principal qualification was their first one, as in like, you've got to come here, you've got to do at least 6 months or a year of study with your first provider, I would be okay with that. The fact that it's the principal course is obviously their highest level course. So for some of them, that's 3-4 years down the track. It does feel like quite anti-competitive, locking a student into a 4-year, like locking them into 4 or 5 years of a college, when it may not, you know, you might find that you don't like the qualification, you don't like the industry. You know, there are particular issues with that school or with that area, or do you think that there is ever going to be an appetite for kind of going, well, look, you've got to spend a year with the provider, but then you can go wherever you want, you know, it's a free market kind of a thing. Do you hear any of that? You know, like what do you think that would just result in utter chaos? Am I naive?
I think these all policies are very much politically motivated. I think these are the unions and government bodies and some people from the media dictating what needs to be done rather than what Australia needs, how Australia need all these skilled people. Because we need people those can take Australia forward.
Yeah.
Like, you know, locking them up in one education, not letting them work in the industry, or like, you know, all these are not going to be helpful to us.
If someone decides they want to be a bricklayer, we need bricklayer.
Yeah.
If someone decides that they want to be an aged carer, we need aged carers. So like, but I think the challenge is that the move is almost always from higher education to vet, and vet is like, you know, it feels like we're treated as the poor cousin of the educational sector.
Very much,
by the media at least.
Yeah, we were treated as a poor cousin in compared to higher education, then now in compared to TAFE as well. Yeah. So there is this okay, I think I'm already basically taking a side here. I should not.
We're very protective of our industry. Those of us that do work, I think, that do work with a lot of the good guys, you know, when you're lucky enough to be able to work with the good guys, you do get protective of
yes, I think it depends upon what your experiences has been. Like, you know, a person like me who has worked with Indian education organization, then US based organization. I can also speak as a permanent resident of Canada as well, and then Australian citizen. I have seen so many different systems and processes, and throughout these, there are bad things, but there are so many good things about Australian education, about private providers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that TAFE and public providers are anyway in any shape and form, or these free TAFE incentives are wrong, but there are so many positive things
Yeah.
with private providers as well. And I think government is turning a completely blind eye and not understanding that the best strategy would be to take everyone together.
And the fact of the matter is that there are certain locations and there are certain industries where that government role is really crucial. I know that I'm currently working on a project with government, with publicly funded, institution, and what they're creating is beautiful and innovative. And there is absolutely no way that you would be able to get that same quality of product. It would be incredibly challenging to get it privately because of just the cost and the time and the resources that are associated with it. But there are also, it really only works when there is a balance of both public and private working together to achieve, and both vet and higher education working to achieve. When you remove private, we've seen that it doesn't work. When you remove vet, it doesn't work. You've got to have all of these things working together. And just as we celebrate that we've got men and women in our society, we should be celebrating that we've got public and private doing
Absolutely, absolutely. And the public organizations, even though we are working with a number of public organizations and government bodies as well, but they would never be able to cater to all these thousands of students those private RTOs do. The training they provide, the way they support economy. So we have to be very transparent and very understanding in terms of the contribution of both providers, public and private.
Yeah. And so how do you see, I mean, obviously CRICOS providers are going to come under a lot of scrutiny. I know I've said this to my clients. I've kind of gone, look, we've got one that's coming up for re-reg. I've said, hands down, you are going to get audited. You've got like 2,000 students, so you are going to get audited. There's no way around it. That's fine. But how are you working with your CRICOS clients? What's the advice that you're giving out to CRICOS clients at the moment in relation to preparing for this higher level of scrutiny that we all see coming in?
So one thing that I have seen throughout these years, and you would agree that as well, Lauren, that whenever any bad press and all these politically motivated things happen, then the next moment there are knee-jerk reactions coming out from a number of organizations. And those reactions sometimes include shutting down organizations left, right, center. Sometimes the organizations don't even follow the due processes the way they should. I'm not seeing that right now with our regulatory bodies, but I have seen that in the past.
Yeah.
And so that's a positive change. Now I think regulatory body is giving a lot of they are putting efforts to understand the reasons and logic why a training organization is doing compliant or non-compliant.
There's a lot of conversations. ASCOR is far more consultative than they have been. I mean, it really at any time in history, in my interactions with them, at least.
Yeah. And they have to be, Lauren. They are in education industry, and education industry is all about consultation.
Yeah. Well, and nothing that we have is black and white. I mean, from the standards to the way the training packages are written, there's always interpretation in that. So it can look like so many different
things. I agree with you. And then coming back to your main question, I feel that all the CRICOS providers are definitely, I would not say at risk, but the next few months are going to be difficult for them. So they need to make sure, and it is not just because ASQA or all these bad press is happening. They need to make sure their house is in order anyways. All these high managerial agents, they need to understand what true it means to provide education, who education provider is,
Yes.
They need to understand the roles of marketing team, all these different departments, IT team, how different legislative requirements, guidelines,
Yeah.
protocols, and then they need to make sure that before any regulatory body comes, their house is in order. Because if their house is in order, if they they can take help of so many really good consultants around, speak to them and ensure that yes, they take their sound advice, right advice, and make their all the processes compliant. But at the same time, I would also say that as there are no regulatory framework on compliance experts, this is also a very big concern, because anyone who is again working in any department or any area, next day they will be compliance consultant, and that's
I was a
not.
trainer yesterday. Now I'm a compliance expert who's running my consultancy.
I have seen so many thousands of these calls, and every single time I feel so horrific, that how could this is happening in
Why would they tell you that? Why, but also, to the same, like you were saying, high managerial agents, guys, if you were going to go out and find a compliance consultant, do your due diligence, guys. Like, find out about their background, know the standards yourselves so that you can ask them these questions. Like,
Absolutely, absolutely. I can tell you so many times when we are in professional development sessions and or audits, and I say that as a CEO or PEO, you must know this, and the response I get is, "Oh, we have other people for this role."
Yeah.
And straight away I tell them, no, this is your role as well. Compliance is not a responsibility of a compliance manager or a consultant or us. This is you. This is your training organization. This is your house. And you need to make sure that this is in order.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that is, it is somewhat unlike any other industry where you can be the director of a company and you don't necessarily need to understand like the legislative weeds of it. In this industry, you need, if you are the PEO, the director, the CEO, the high managerial agent, you need to understand the standards. And any consultant that you work with, any compliance person that you bring on, you do need to be able to check them. Like, you need to have that process in place.
110%, Lauren. And there are few things that we don't need a lot of knowledge to understand how that will work or what will actually happen. For example, why in Australia a lot of people, they follow rules compared to a lot of other countries, because of the framework guidelines. And if this framework, doesn't matter what changes they make in these fit and proper person declarations and documentation, if the legislative framework will let these people, those do not have education in their heart, in their mind, in the sector, nothing going to change, nothing going to work. If these people will not go through regular professional development training in all aspects of running an education business, nothing will change. So change will happen when the regulatory standards and policies are written in such a manner, very transparent, everyone knows what is expected from each of these standards and each of these clauses. Only then the change will happen.
So I feel like I know what you're going to tell me when I ask this question. Have you read the new draft standards? Do you feel that it's progressing in the right direction of more clarity than we had before?
I have read, and I did post my comments on a number of social media platforms as well, and I did provide my feedback to the bodies as well. I'm very disappointed reading the new standards. I believe that the current standards are far better than what is coming. So let's see if those suggestions and all that feedback has taken into consideration, because when the language of regulatory framework is unclear, you cannot have clear outcomes. So we need to make sure what kind of protocols we are setting up here.
Yeah. And are there like strategic areas where in particular you think that it would have a big impact on the sector, you know, to provide that sort of a clarity?
The draft standards you're
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah.
So I think there are so many areas. I don't know, like, which one to pick first and start talking about it. When it comes to, for example, training and assessment, if you will let anyone get into training without them completing certificate 40A, that's a huge concern. Or other training and assessment qualification. There need to be some very clear guidelines and standards around who can be a trainer, who can be an assessor, who can be a compliance consultant, who can be an owner of an RTO. And if we do not have those set standards, things are destined to fail. And the draft standards, they do not create those set boundaries and criteria. I feel they are far more ambiguous and unclear than the current standards. So I'm not happy.
They're more flexible.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the problem. With all these policies, all these things, yes, they can, like, we can talk till cow comes home, but the problem is with the policies. The problem is with the regulatory framework and guidelines. They are the ones those set these organizations to fail. And if Australia genuinely want to improve their education system and want to be like Germany and other countries, then we need to make sure that these are very clear. Everyone knows what their responsibilities are. Everyone knows what their guidelines, what these guidelines mean, and only then a true change can come. Yeah.
So I guess transitioning into something positive so that we can finish up on a positive note. You were at EduTech last week. I know I've spoken to a few people that were at EduTech now. Obviously, AI was a huge discussion and talking point, and there was some incredible services that were coming out. What is something that you are excited about for the Australian vet sector? You know, what are some of the positives that you see that could come out over the next couple of years?
I think AI is truly one of the groundbreaking technologies. I think it is, it can do so many things, like, from our assessment writing to learner resources to, like, help with research to so many different areas. Even, like, all of our team members and us, like, even I, like, we have been exploring all the possibilities of AI, what it can do, what it cannot do, where the problems are. Yes, like, when it comes to assessment writing, especially, there are so many issues we experienced using AI, because it cannot,
it's a tool. It is not a supplement. Yes. For it's a tool. It does not replace.
Yeah. It cannot give human touch. It cannot understand the complex the regulatory framework and guidelines. And the way it writes completely incorrect information so many times. So if you are spending and you don't even know from where this content is coming from, so later on with copyright and with so many areas, you might have experienced so many problems. But at the same time, AI is really wonderful, really good. I feel that in research, this will be really helpful.
Yeah.
I feel that at the moment, like, it is in very early stages as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm a little bit scared as well, like, where it can take us. And this is very first time we are letting something that has more power and capabilities than human brain. So let's see how things going to go.
Did you see anything last week at EduTech? Were there any was there any services, or were there any products or anything like that, or speakers where you walked away and you were like, wow, that's amazing?
Well, there were so many, with artificial intelligence as one of the main thing, almost every counter, everyone about it. Then gamification, then cybersecurity, then so many education, edutech tools, and so much more. It's robotics, so much coming, and it's
your little robot that they had running around at EduTech last week. He was adorable.
Yeah, so it's really good. It's very good, basically, and but again, it depends upon policies and guidelines, what we set, and how people are how people are operating under those. That going to matter a lot. My understanding is we need to have ethical AI, and there needs to be some very clear standards set up as soon as possible. If we don't have those standards, then we will experience some very difficult time.
Yeah. So now, Sukh, if people want to find out more about you or your multitude of companies, where can they find you at?
They can Google. They can visit careercalling.international. They can also visit caqa.com.au, or they can visit caqa-resources.com.au. There are a number of other websites as well. They can follow me on LinkedIn just by searching Sukh Sandhu. They can send email to info@caqa.com.au as well. So there are so many multiple ways they can find about us.
Absolutely. And we will link some of those below, guys. So if you want to find out more about what Sukh is doing, or the services that they offer across assessment development, resource development, recruiting, all of those sorts of good things, you can check the link below. As per usual, we encourage you to ask lots of questions. We encourage healthy debates. So make sure that you comment those below. Sukh, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed our conversation. Everybody, thank you very much to Sukh. My name is Lauren Hollows from NOI Education Services. As always, eat good food, be good to those that you love, and get outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.